Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to meet you virtually. Um,
Likewise.
Maybe you could just kick off with a brief intro. Of course, some people are going to be very familiar with the series and the premise. Some might be coming to it fresh. So maybe you can just tell us a bit about what they can expect from this incredible series.
Uh, I'm Noah Wyle, Gemini, brown hair, brown eyes, 51 years old, starring as Harry Wilson on the show Leverage Redemption Season 2, which is a kind of crime and heist show about a team of Robin Hood do-gooders who used to be bad guys who are now doing good things to help little guys who are being squashed by big guys.
And what was the appeal for you in getting stuck into the show and taking on this character?
Um, it was the middle of the pandemic. I didn't know if I was ever going to work again. I got a call from my old friend Dean Devlin, who said, I'm doing this show in New Orleans. You know everybody on the cast, you know everybody on the crew. Do you want to come and play? And it sounded really good. So I went down and had a ball and got to really enjoy this character. And then they asked me to come back and do another season, and I jumped at the chance. And this time I got to really be involved in even more meaningful way. I directed a couple of the episodes in the first season, and this year I joined the writing staff and wrote an episode as well. So this show provided me an opportunity to have fun with my friends, but also have a really kind of intensive education in all aspects of production to keep myself growing in what I want to do.
And of course, when a series launches, you don't know how it's going to be received, if there'll be an opportunity to return to it in a second season. What is that feeling like when you can see just how much it's connected with people and, having that opportunity to come back, revisit those characters, go even bigger and bolder with the kind of scenarios you put them in?
This setup was a better bet than most because it's always a speculative venture. But given the fact that this has had such a rabid fan base for so long, and that fan base was really intensely behind bringing the show back, we knew that a certain group of people would show up. The fact that they brought friends and they brought friends and they brought friends and more people showed up, and we didn't disappoint those original viewers, but actually gratified them and brought more eyeballs to the table was extremely gratifying. It's great. I mean, it's especially being the new guy, wanting to find my place in the chorus and make sure that my voice lifted all the voices and didn't stand out. I was really happy with how it all came across.
And, in terms of when you had that moment of deciding, or, with the writers, which direction to kind of take it for a second season, what was kind of the main thought in your head, and what did you want to maybe do similar, but also do differently?
Well, being in the writing room for the first time in the 30 some odd years I've been doing this was really eye opening because I've always assumed erroneously that it's easy. And it's not easy. It's really, 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 really hard, even with extremely bright people all putting their collective genius on the problem. Crafting, especially a leverage episode. And it was explained to me as we began that the original writers of the Leverage series have all gone on to become showrunners on all these other shows because of how hard it is to do this particular type of writing, where the format is so specific. You have to have cons that work and don't work, and 5 characters all who have different skill sets. It has to blend comedy, but also has to have drama. There has to be an emotional storyline, but it also has to reverberate with one of our characters. It has to be torn from the pages of today's headlines, but it has to fit into a 43-minute box and can't be more than 50 pages. That's an incredible discipline. And so what I learned was how hard it is. And when you pull it off, how, it's really pretty fantastic.
And what about for your character specifically? How do you see him, and perhaps how he's evolved coming into the second season?
Well, probably like the actor who plays him, he came back in a little cockier and a little bit more confident and a little bit more comfortable in the role. And so he leaned into the things that seemed most fun to lean into, like costumes and accents and cons and things. So I had a ball this year in front of the camera as well. And so did Harry.
And it does look like you have such a blast on this set. I mean, the fact that you've got this crew of you, and then I've had a chance to speak to Christian before and Gina just now. I mean, they're all just so delightful, and there's so much comedy. And of course, even if the humor's there on the page, it's got to land also on set. So, what was it like acting opposite all these people?
Contact sport. If you get to the end of the scene and there isn't a definitive punchline that's definitively funny and definitively ascribed to a certain character, it's a free for all. And they're all very quick-minded performers. They're all incredibly facile and wonderful improvisers. So the scripts uh, leave a little bit of room for this additional marination that the actors bring to it in their roles, and that's really fun. It's really fun to go in and know you have a good skeleton and to be with a group of people that are excited about putting the meat and bones onto it.
Was there a particular episode or scene that you really enjoyed kind of embracing for your character?
Well, I wrote myself a really good part in the episode I wrote. I figured it's gonna at least be one show that I'm gonna love playing whatever it is I'm doing. So I wrote myself a fun one. It's called the Walk in the Woods Job, and I got to do some really fun stuff, including for the whole act, pretend that I'm Elliot Spencer.
And in terms of the takeaways from a series like this, as you were mentioning there at the beginning, it does have this incredible blend of comedy and drama, and it is hitting on, real world issues. So although, first and foremost, it's, an entertaining show, it is hitting on things of substance, things for people to discuss with their families or kind of, ruminate on after they stop watching. So was that also an appeal for you and kind of, I guess, one of the great things about the show?
Indeed. And I hate to keep taking you back to the writer's room, but those writers unfortunately have to live in some of the worst stories of the world in order to find these the cases. You sift through about 50 horrific things to find the one that you can sort of break into a story and find that humor, because so much of this stuff you're walking a very fine line with. There isn't a lot of humor in some of these subjects, if at all. So the humor has to come in the way that our team goes about bringing the justice, and it has to be very character based. But you never want to lose sight or sensitivity to the issue that you're talking about, because they're very intense. But I think that is the appeal, that these aren't esoteric cases that nobody can relate to, but they feel very familiar, and the victims feel very familiar, and the justice feels twice as sweet when we're sort of looking for that justice in our everyday lives as well.
And sort of having a quick moment to reflect on your own career. I mean, as you said, like trying your hand now at directing, doing shows like this. I mean, how do you look back on where you've been? I mean, have to make quick mention of, the incredible ER. I don't know, you must have such great affection for Carter and those days, but, how do you look back on it all?
Fondly, fondly, fondly. It doesn't seem like you sort of close your eyes and you wake up and it's been decades and you don't realize it's that so much time has passed, or so you've done so much stuff. But what I feel profoundly is just gratitude that I'm the age I am, and in the world that we're living in, I'm still able to find a place to go and contribute and be creative. Is all I've ever wanted. So I'm very happy.
Do you have any itches left to scratch? Anything, would you like to do more directing, more writing, anything else in the pipeline?
Yeah, I feel like I've been assembling these varied skill sets with the intention of sort of moving in my own direction and eventually, making a show that I have more of a stake of ownership in. But I hold a lot of respect for all these people that, put these shows together. I wanted to learn from the best before I ever tried it. So slowly but surely I'm growing up.
And you've obviously seen the industry change as well. I mean, I guess in the past, there were the TV shows, but there was sort of a few of them and everyone was hooked onto those. And now, there's just so many different platforms.
It's
But
a
it also affords a lot of opportunities as well.
Yes, that's very true. That's a good point. And it would be I would be remiss if I didn't say one of the best aspects of the last 2 years have been watching the birth of Beth Riescraft's directing career, and watching her really get an opportunity to spread her wings creatively. Because she's so original DNA to this show when she's at the helm, it's really impressive. And I think her episodes that she did this year were phenomenal, and she keeps getting better and better. And it's wonderful that opportunities for actors to cross the line and direct, or actors to write, have come around. And I think that's really come about because there is so much content out there that it's a little bit less competitive making those transitions than it used to be.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me. I really can't wait for everyone else to get stuck into this second season. Thanks so
Yeah, I
much.
hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Thanks.